Assalamu alaikum. I am Nur Shamila Betima Said. Today, I will present about the role and assessment issues in the 21st century for diverse learning in the Malaysian primary ESL classroom. The 21st century has brought about sweeping changes in educational goals, pedagogy, and assessment practices. In language education, especially in English as a second language ESL settings, assessment have evolved from a tool to merely evaluate student achievement to one that guides learning, nurtures skills, and informs instructions. In Malaysia, with its multicultural, multilingual, and socio-economical diverse populations, the role of assessment in the primary ESL classroom is more critical and complex than ever. Teachers are not only expected to track learners' linguistic progress, but also to address a wide spectrum of learning needs through responsive, equitable, and forward thinking assessment methods. Assessment as a tool for meaningful language learning. Assessments in the modern ESL classroom goes beyond texting memorizations of vocabulary and grammar. It now seeks to evaluate how well learners can use language communicatively and functionally. In alignment with the Common European Framework of Reference CEFR, Malaysian English curriculum encourages the use of can-do descriptors which focus on students' abilities to perform real-life communication tasks. So it must support and develop skills such as reading, writing, listening, and also speaking. So it also promoting meaningful language use. For example, a year 3 teacher may assess students' speaking skills through a pair dialogue activities, where pupils pretend to buy items in a mini classroom market. The objective is not a perfect grammar, but how effectively and confidently they can ask and answer questions using target phrases like how much is this and I would like. In this case, assessment promotes the authentic use of English. It is a key 21st century skills. Next point is supporting individual learning path and diversity. The diversity in Malaysian classrooms cannot be overstated. ESL learners vary not only in language proficiency but also in cultural background, home literacy environment, and access to learning resources. Effective assessment in this context plays a dynamic and adaptive role. For instance, in a multi level classroom in Kelantan, a teacher might group students by their reading fluency and provide differentiated reading comprehension tasks using graded readers. A child with the limited English exposure might work with illustrated text and orally narrate a story, while more advanced learner responds to inference-based questions in writing. Through such inclusive and scaffolded assessments, every learner has a chance to succeed. Third is for fostering higher order thinking. Modern assessment must capture more than language competence. It should also develop critical thinking, collaboration, creativity, and communication, often referred to as the four C's. Tools like I-Think maps promoted in Malaysian schools allow learners to visualize and connect ideas. For example, after reading a short story like The King's New Clothes, students might complete a double bubble map comparing the king and the tailor. These not only assesses reading comprehension but also encourages students to analyze character traits and express their opinions using English. Assessments in this way become a platform for deeper connective engagement, not just language accuracy. Fourth is blending formative and summative approaches. The integration of Pentaksiran Bilik Darjah (PBD) encourages teachers to move away from the purely summative testing to include ongoing formative assessment. Teachers are expected to collect evidence of learning through observations, checklists, anecdotal notes, and student reflections. For example, in a Year 5 classroom in Sabah, a teacher may assess students' writing by asking them to keep a daily journal about their school life. The teacher then uses a simple rubric to track growth in sentence structure, vocabulary, and organization, providing feedback along the way. This approach nurtures a growth mindset, builds confidence, and provides continuous support, especially for struggling students. Assessment issues in ESL classroom. First is over reliance on standardized testing. One of the major challenges in Malaysian ESL classroom is the mismatch between standardized assessments and students' real communicative needs. Exams such as Ujian Akhir Sesi Academic UASA often prioritize reading comprehension and grammar with multiple choice formats. While these are easy to administer, they rarely access speaking, listening, or the ability to use language in context. Consider a Year 6 student from a rural school in Perlis who has good oral communication skills but limited writing proficiency. These a traditional exam may not capture their true ability, thereby affecting their performance and confidence. This narrow scope of assessment can demotivate learners and undervalue the effort of students who are progressing in non academic ways. Secondly, is language proficiency gaps. Students entering primary school bring with them varying levels of English exposure. Children from urban English speaking households may find English lessons and assessment easier, while those from non English speakers' homes, such as indigenous Orang Asli communities or students in remote parts of Sarawak, may feel alienated. A common issues arises when test instruction and question are too complex or culturally unfamiliar. A reading passage about visiting a shopping mall may confuse a student who has never been to one. Without careful adaptation, such assessment can be inequitable and cultural bias. Teacher preparedness. While national policies promote alternative assessments, not all teachers are trained to implement them effectively. Some rely heavily on traditional paper based tests due to lack of knowledge, confidence, or time constraints. There are also inconsistencies in using rubrics or providing meaningful feedback. For instance, a teacher may ask students to write an opinion paragraph about their favorite food, but mark it only for spelling errors, ignoring organizations, coherence, or expressions. Without a clear, holistic rubric, feedback becomes vague, and students miss the opportunity to improve. Next is digital divide. The push for digital assessment tools such as Google Classroom, quizzes, and Padlet has transformed learning in urban areas. However, rural schools often lack stable internet connections, sufficient devices, or teacher training. A school in interior Sabah might have only one functioning laptop and poor Wi Fi. In such cases, students are deprived of engaging with interactive and multimodal assessment, which are crucial for building digital literacy. Is a key component of 21st century education. The last one is limited student voice. Modern assessment encourages students' voice, choice, and reflection. However, many Malaysian ESL classrooms still use teacher dominated practices. Students are rarely given opportunities to set learning goals, assess their own work, or give peer feedback. For example, in a year for writing task, students could be invited to use a simple checklist. For example, did I include a title? Did I use full sentences? Did I check my spelling? To review their own writing. Such practices, though small, help develop autonomous learners who can monitor their own progress. So, for the recommendations, to ensure equitable and effective assessments in Malaysian primary ESL classrooms, several steps can be taken. The first one is expand teacher training in assessment literacy. Provide regular workshops on how to design authentic, differentiated, and inclusive assessments with real classroom models and mentoring. Next, localized assessment materials. Use cultural relevant themes, familiar context, and visual support in test items to make assessments accessible for all learners. Next, number three, strengthens formative assessment practices. We can encourage the use of self assessments, checklists, journals, and learning portfolios across all schools with clear rubrics. Number four is bridge the digital divide. Equip rural schools with the mobile friendly apps or offline digital tools for assessments and train teachers in using them meaningfully. And the last one is promote student centered assessment. Involve learners in co constructing rubrics, peer editing, and reflecting on their own learning through students' lead conference or digital portfolio. So, as a conclusion, the role of assessment in 21st century Malaysian primary ESL classroom has broadened significantly. From judging performance to enhancing learning, from standardization to personalizations. However, to fully realize its potential, there must be ongoing efforts to address current challenges, particularly in ensuring fairness and responsiveness to learner diversity. With thoughtful planning, inclusive practices, and sustained support, assessment can become a powerful engine that drive meaningful, equitable, and future-ready ESL education in Malaysia. So that's it for me. Thank you.